Welcome back to This is a Commander channel, where this is a Commander channel, and today I'm going to talk about Commander cards and rules in episode 5 of Tough Rules and Cool Interactions. But before we get things going, I do want to remind you this is a very new YouTube channel, so I do ask that you guys check out the video description down below. You'll find a link to a survey that you can fill out, and that'll help give me some feedback on the video, things that you liked, things that you disliked. Also, feel free to ask any questions about rules interactions on cards. That'll help to give me some ideas for videos in the future. Also, feel free to ask those kind of questions down in the videos comments section as well, and I can use that again to help make future episodes on the Tough Rules and Cool Interactions series. So for today's episode, going to be taking a look at Cursed Mirror, one of the new cards from the Commander 2021 releases. It is an artifact for 2 and a red, and it has a very generic kind of effect. Tap, add 1 red mana to your mana pool. That's nothing too special. But it also has a replacement for how it enters the battlefield. And that says, as Cursed Mirror enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn, except it has haste. So 2 things to note. First off, it has haste permanently, not till end of turn. So that's an interesting thing to note. If anybody were to ever gain control of a creature that you make it come in as a copy of, it does have haste, and so it won't have summoning sickness if they steal it. They don't have to have it for their whole combat. So that's just an interesting thing to note. But also, the effect here with it coming in as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. So that's really cool. It can come in as a copy of your opponent's creatures. So let's get into some examples of what this could be used for and what this cannot be used for. So one of the cards I've seen people bring up when talking about Cursed Mirror is, hey, my opponent has an Ulamog out and I play Cursed Mirror. I'm going to have it come in as a copy of Ulamog. Therefore, hey, I get that whole when you cast Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, exile 2 permanents. Well, you don't actually get to do that. Ulamog does have to be actually cast from your hand, so Ulamog needs to be Ulamog on the stack when it's cast. Cursed Mirror doesn't actually become the Ulamog until it's entering the battlefield. It's not on the stack. It actually is not cast as Ulamog. So you don't get that. You could still have it come in as the 10/10 indestructible that Ulamog is, and you can get that because it has haste. You can get that attack trigger, making the player exile the top 20 cards of their library, but you're not going to get that cast trigger. So minor thing with that. Now, one of the cool things that you can do with Cursed Mirror is something like a Marchesa. Let's say you have Marchesa out. She is a 3/3 legendary creature human wizard for a generic blue, black, and red. She has Dethrone, which says whenever this creature attacks the player with the most life or tied for the most life, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then she also gives all of your other creatures that you control Dethrone, the same effect that she's got. And then, most importantly, she has this, whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next instant. So let's say you've also got, or maybe your opponent, let's go with your opponent, has a creature out like Solemn Simulacrum. I'm sure everybody knows what this does, but for so many people that don't, it is a 2/2 artifact golem creature for 4 generic. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put that onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. And when he dies, you may draw a card. So your opponent has Solemn Simulacrum, you've got Marchesa, and you play your Cursed Mirror. You have your Cursed Mirror come in as a copy of their Solemn Simulacrum, so now you have a Solemn Simulacrum entering the battlefield. You get that ETB effect that he has. You get to search for that land. And then the Cursed Mirror does give it haste, so you can attack with it. Let's say you attack the player with the highest life total. So now, because of Marchesa being out, your Solemn Simulacrum, which is actually a Cursed Mirror, gets a +1/+1 counter on it, on that attack, if you're hitting the player with the most life. And let's say they block and they kill your Cursed Mirror that is a copy of Solemn Simulacrum. That means that it's going to die, and Marchesa is going to see that. Even though when it dies and is sent back to the graveyard, that it is being sent as a Cursed Mirror, when it was on the battlefield, when it died, it was a Solemn Simulacrum creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. So Marchesa is going to bring it back, and it's going to bring back Cursed Mirror as it is a Cursed Mirror normally. So you get that same enters as a copy of trigger. You could have it come in as another Solemn Simulacrum. You could have it come in as any other creature. So that's just a really cool effect. You could get that Solemn Simulacrum land enter the battlefield effect twice. From the first time it entered, and then it attacked, died, and came back in, it could come in as another Solemn Simulacrum. The other cool thing is when it died, you got that when it dies, draw a card trigger. So there's some really cool things that you can do with Cursed Mirror. And getting more into the copyable effects, I'm going to have 2 rules down in the video description below. Specifically, it's going to be rule 706.2 and 706.3. Not really going to read all of it for 706.2. It's a really, really long one. Get into that. That talks about like what is actually copied for copyable effects. But I am going to read 706.3, and that says, the copy's copyable values become the copied information as modified by the copy's status. Objects that copy the object will use the new copyable values. So that's going to come into play if you have something out like a Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. So Sakashima comes in, copies something like a Solemn Simulacrum, and then you play that Cursed Mirror. What it's going to be, is it going to be the Sakashima, or is it going to be the Solemn Simulacrum that Sakashima is a copy of? And that's where rule 706.3 comes into play. It actually would come in as the Solemn Simulacrum that the Sakashima is copying. So I'll get a future episode coming out, probably multiple episodes, that talk about the layers system, because there is a very, very crazy rabbit hole when it comes to the layer system. It's probably one of a lot of people think of the stack as one of the most complicated parts of Magic the Gathering. I think that the layer system is far more complex than the stack. So I'm going to get some future episodes out about layer system as well, because there are some weird things that come into play with things like Darksteel Mutation, where you're throwing out enchantments that change the effects of cards. So keep an eye out for episodes like that in the future. But for now, just talking about Cursed Mirror and what it can do coming in as copies of creatures, and how it affects things like Marchesa, where they can come back, and if Cursed Mirror is becoming a copy of copied creatures. Just some really cool things there that I think are going to actually come into play with a lot of the games you guys are playing with your playgroups. So hope you guys have enjoyed this video talking about Cursed Mirror. I hope you are excited about Cursed Mirror as I am. I think it is a very, very, very cool red card that we just don't see this effect that often. It's typically a blue kind of effect. So hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Please do check out the video description below. Fill out that survey. Do let me know what you guys like and dislike about the video. Also, please subscribe for more episodes talking about these tough rules and cool interaction series, as well as future episodes where we're going to get into doing some actual gameplays and deck techs and all that kind of good stuff that you expect from any typical Commander YouTube channel. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it all. Have a good one. Ta-ta.